What is up, guys? Here we are, week 11, taking a look at the nation here in our FCS Dynasty in NCAA football 2006. This is year 2, week 11. We're going to go ahead and check everything out. The front cover has Dorian Wurra on the Dayton Flyers, their quarterback. On the cover, Wurra and the Flyers continue to shock the college football world. Okay. Check it out, bowl rankings. Go Tigers. The latest bowl rankings have Tennessee State playing for the national title. Now, they are in the SEC, and they are 7-0 currently, 5-0 in conference. And they got a big game coming up against the Jacksonville Dolphins here in week number 11. So look out for that game, folks. Definitely circle that one on the calendar. Cal Poly, our first team in the bowl rankings, they are ranked number 2. And Dayton, number 3. William and Mary in there. So look at all of these FCS schools taking over the bowl rankings here. Just in year 2, we have the top 5 teams are all FCS schools. So that is pretty awesome. You love to see it. Ball State ranks 6th after Savannah State and William and Mary. New Mexico State, they just lost their previous game. Boise State blew them out 54-38. And that was in New Mexico State's stadium. So a little bit of a rough game there for them in front of their home crowd. But as you look at their stats, Crosby, the quarterback, is having a fantastic season. 22 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, 2,500 yards. My goodness. VMI is number 8 in the bowl rankings, which is pretty surprising since they're ranked 10th nationally right now. Tulane, they had a big win this season over Savannah State. Boise State, 10th. UTEP. Bryant, they're number 12 in the bowl rankings, 11th nationally. Fresno State, who Bryant beat in the national championship game last season. Akron is 14th, and Central Michigan Chippewas round out the bowl rankings in week 11. Taking a look at the top 25 polls. Upended, Rice is defeated by unranked Stephen F. Austin, and Ward is disgusted with his team's performance. So with that loss from New Mexico State to Boise State, Tennessee State is now number 1 in the nation. They just had a big win over Southern, 34-31. And here's a look at some of their stat leaders so far this year. James, 2,077 yards, 17 touchdowns, just 1 interception for the number 1 ranked Tennessee State Tigers out of the SEC East. They have a pretty good ground game as well with Goss, and Parquette has 8 touchdown receptions on the season. So Tennessee State definitely worthy of that number 1 spot. And as you can see, there's no other undefeated teams here in the top 6. Well, we got Cal Poly number 2, Dayton number 3, Ball State 4, William and Mary number 5, Savannah State still climbing. They have the 2 losses on the season, but still somehow they have an outside chance to get in here and possibly play for a national championship at season's end. So look forward to that, folks. They do have to go and face somebody in the ACC title game if they can make it. I believe Morgan State is also in the Coastal, and they have a very similar record to the Tigers, if I'm not mistaken, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at that shortly in a moment. Tulane jumps to number 7 after a bye week. UTEP jumps to number 8 after a win over Towson. And New Mexico State, there they are. They dropped 8 spots with that big loss to the Boise State Broncos. VMI number 10 in the nation, so that makes, 4 schools of ours in the top 10. So I'm pretty excited about that. Still, 4 teams that have a shot at possibly playing for the national championship at year's end, and I can't wait for that. And Bryant, I'm not sure if they have a shot. They do have 2 losses as well, just like Savannah State, and they just absolutely destroyed the Hampton Pirates. The Tigers, they just destroyed Bethune-Cookman. So, but I'm not sure if Bryant will have a shot at the title game or not. I don't even think they're going to be in the ACC championship game because William and Mary is above them. Boise State, number 12 in the nation. As I get my music going again. Fresno State, they stay the same after a 31-7 win over San Jose State. Akron 14, Southern Utah 15th in the nation. A little bit disrespectful here to the Thunderbirds. They're 7-0, and they are atop the Pac-10 right now. And we've already seen another Pac-10 school here, Cal Poly, ranked number 2 in the nation. Of course, they don't have any conference losses. Their only loss on the year came against New Mexico State, which is obviously a pretty good team at 6-1. But a lot of Southern Utah fans, the team, the coach, the players, they feel a little bit disrespected right now as they're 15th at 7-0. Central Michigan is 16th, Buffalo at 17. Buffalo's having a good year, 7-1 on the season. And their next game, they're going to be hosting the New Hampshire Wildcats, so that'll be a fun game for them in the MAC. UNLV ranked 18th in the country out of the Mountain West. Eastern Michigan 19th in the nation. They just beat Navy in a very close game, 20-13. And now their next game, they have to travel to take on their rival, the Western Michigan Broncos. Jacksonville, after a tough loss to the Elkhorn State Braves, 57-50, they dropped to 20th in the nation. And UC Davis ranked 21st in the country. They just beat San Diego 24-17. The Toreros almost came back and won that ball game. It was very close, very exciting game. One of our full broadcast live streams. That was a fun one. Taking a look at some of the stats. Owen Black, 1,005 yards passing on the year. 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. Tyreek Taylor, 801 yards, 9 touchdowns for the halfback, who also plays some fullback as well in a couple formations. Let me go ahead and take a look at some of the stats here. If you want to see all the stats every single week, go ahead and join our Discord community today. I have all of the stats in there for pretty much every player, except for the quarterbacks. I only have the starting quarterback stats on here. But every other stat you could think of, we pretty much have for all of our subscriber players. Now, let's see here. Tyreek Taylor, rushing yards. He's also, let's see where he's ranked here. And he's about 12th for yards out of our subscriber running backs, so not bad, especially since he's splitting carries with Lito Lozano, who has 545 yards rushing as well, and Wyatt Geddes, who is at 330 yards on the season currently. Jaquan Brown, 12 catches, half of them have been touchdowns. And that he's just such an exciting player. Every time he touches the ball, you think it's a touchdown. It's insane. But the Aggies, they're going to be without Tyreek Taylor for the next ball game, which is against Eastern Washington. And that's going to be in Cheney, Washington. So that should be a pretty tough game. It's a Pac-10 game. And we're going to see Lito Lozano and Wyatt Geddes in the backfield all game long for the Aggies. Rice drops 14 spots after a loss to Stephen F. Austin, who is unranked, 24-21 loss, and it doesn't get any easier for the Owls. Their next game, they travel to take on 7th-ranked Tulane. Nevada jumps into the rankings after a win over Hawaii, 41-40. New Mexico jumps up into the rankings to 24th. And Wyoming also jumps into the rankings after a 45-14 win over Western Kentucky. And that is it for the top 25. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Heisman watch list. Heisman buzz grows. Massey looks to garner All-America honors along with the coveted Heisman. So that's a receiver for the Boise State Broncos, and he is number 4 now. Brandon Allen, of course, sits at the top. Mr. Highlight at number 2, 1,700 all-purpose yards, 19 total touchdowns, but that loss to Elkhorn State might hurt his chances. But then again, Bryant, they have 2 losses on the season as well, and Brandon Allen is way up at the top. I don't think he's going to be moving anytime soon. He's got over 2,100 yards total and 24 total touchdowns, so he's an absolute monster, and he placed second in the Heisman voting last season. And MJ Gator Jr. climbs back up to number 3 in the country after that win over Bethune-Cookman. He now has 1,012 yards on the season, 17 touchdowns, and 19 catches for 379 yards, 3 scores. So he's having a great year. Not nearly as good as his season last year, which he had 2,300 rushing yards, 31 touchdowns. But still, great numbers. In 8 games, that's just fantastic. And last season, he also had 10 receiving touchdowns. So 41 total touchdowns for him on offense last season, and that really helped him get that Heisman. And some people might think that we should put him on special teams, but I think he does enough on offense. They got a pretty good special teams too, as far as, punt returns, kick returns, and whatnot. They got Chris Numa, who's just always fantastic on returns. He only has 1 punt return for a touchdown this season, though. And he had just so many last year. Sonny Six, the freshman halfback for the Dayton Flyers, 1,300 yards rushing, 19 touchdowns. He'd probably be higher on this list if he had more than 2 receptions on the season. But he has been an absolute stud for the Flyers this year. Right alongside Smash Jackson, who is also having a great season as well. Let me just go ahead and pull up the stats here. Sonny Six is second for rushing yards among our subscriber players with 1,301, and Smash Jackson is number 3 with 1,041 yards. Both of them are trailing Brandon Allen, of course, and Zoomer Speed is at number 4 right now for our subscriber players. MJ Gator Jr. is number 5. All of those players have 1,000 yards or more. And after that, the next closest is Brandon Lee, fullback for the Southern Utah Thunderbirds, 973 yards on the season. So he will definitely get that in their next ball game. But that's it for the Heisman Watch, guys. 4 players from 4 different schools of ours. So I'm pretty excited about that. We have a good shot at one of them winning it this season, just like last season. And here we are, the awards semifinalists. So we finally get to see some award action here. Earning recognition, Dayton's 6 hopes to be a finalist for the 2006 Doak Walker Award. Let's check it out, folks. The Maxwell Award. Brandon Allen is on there. MJ Gator Jr., Sonny Six, Zoomer Speed having a great season, 21 total touchdowns, and over 1,200 yards of offense. Kyle Parker, Georgia Southern quarterback. Look how small this guy is, 5'6", 173 pounds. But he's balling out, folks. Look at those stats. 27 total touchdowns for him in that nasty option attack in Georgia Southern. A couple quarterbacks here. Southeastern quarterback Brett Williams, 27 touchdowns on the season. Just 3 picks for the Lions. Boise State has a couple players on here. There's Massey. Justin Hops is number 10, and he is out 1 week, so he's going to miss 1 game here for the Keydets. Michael Hines, number 11 for the Maxwell. He's got 29 total touchdowns and over 2,100 total yards of offense. And Joey Lester, that speedy receiver for Elkhorn State, rounds out the Maxwell Award with 60 catches, 1,113 yards, and 15 total touchdowns. The guy's an absolute beast, and I believe he's the one that had 97 speed, excuse me. But 97 acceleration, too. It was so hard to cover him. And I'm surprised that Jacksonville was even close to coming back to win that ball game. The Bednarik Award for best linebacker and, front 7 player, rather. We got Joe Owens, non-subscriber player for the Bryant Bulldogs. I feel like on that defensive line, Devine Adams and Ruben Blueberry get all of the attention, and people don't really focus on blocking Joe Owens. So that's why he has 16 sacks this season, 25 tackles for a loss. He had 10 sacks last season as well. So 26 sacks in 2 seasons for a non-subscriber player. That's just absolutely outrageous. Derek Woods for Boise State having a pretty good season. 16 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 2 picks, 3 forced fumbles. Rob Orlandi, he leads all of our subscriber players in interceptions with 6. He's got 3 forced fumbles on the year as well. And he's stayed healthy this season, which has been phenomenal. If he had stayed healthy last season, he probably would have got 15 interceptions. He ended it with 11 for a middle linebacker. Absolutely crazy. Cy Summers, one of my favorite players in the series so far. 65 tackles, 23 for loss, 5 sacks, 2 picks, 5 forced fumbles, 2 touchdowns. And of course, I user him during the Bryant games. So I'm going to take full credit for that. What's up? Logan Tyler, I user him as well for Southern Utah. I have 70 tackles with him, 7 for a loss, a sack, 2 picks, and 6 forced fumbles. I believe he also has 2 recovered. Yes, he does, with 4 pass deflections. And he's just been a stud. Cash Harris, another defensive end here. 7 sacks, 6 forced fumbles for him. O.J. Thomas for Fresno State. Ralph Williams, he's having a great year. 5 picks. And how many touchdowns does he have? Just 1 touchdown, but he also has 5 forced fumbles to go along with his 33 tackles. Here's a freshman here from Eastern Kentucky. Those are some pretty good stats. 41 tackles, 2 for loss, 6 picks, 2 forced fumbles, and a touchdown. Reggie Barron for Northern Arizona, a linebacker. He's a monster. We've seen him quite a few times in the series. And D.B. Slocum, freshman outside linebacker for Dayton, is on here with 45 tackles, 17 for loss, 5 sacks, a pick, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 recovered. He has been outstanding this season. That's it for the Bet and Eric. Let's check out the best quarterback. And surprisingly, it's Kyle Parker from Georgia Southern. 27 total touchdowns. Let's check out his passing stats. 15 touchdowns, 3 picks on this season. And he's probably going to hit 1,000 rushing yards this season as well. He's already got more touchdowns this year than he did last year with 12. That's crazy stats. So I would not be surprised if he won that. But Trey McCoy's right behind him with 28 touchdown passes. And Brett Williams has 27 for Southeastern. Justin Hops is our #1 quarterback so far. And we saw Lamar Jackson win this award last season. And this year, he got benched for freshman quarterback Tremaine Watson. He was just having a really rough season. The incompletions were just insane. Just a lot of fumbles. And Lamar Jackson definitely hitting that sophomore slump. But Justin Hops progressed quite a bit from last season as you take a look at these stats here in comparison. 20 touchdown passes to 18 last year and only 6 interceptions this season. He had 17 last season, and his completion percentage also went up. So he is improving in every facet of the ball game. Only 3 fumbles. He had 12 last season. He doesn't have nearly as many touchdown rushes, but he will most likely get around the same amount of yards this season on the ground. But he is becoming a really good passer for the Keydets, and that is what they missed last season, and that cost them a couple ball games. Dustin Brown on there, 30 touchdown passes, 11 picks. If he didn't have so many picks, he'd probably be a little higher. Michael Hines on here, 29 total touchdowns. Lance Pearson for Air Force. He's got almost 700 rushing yards, 22 touchdowns, and his picks are pretty low as well. Pretty good season for him, my goodness. Mark Burnett for UNLV, 28 total touchdowns. Kevin Essex for Fresno State. Isaac Willis for Grambling State. You love to see the Tigers on here. 22 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He's going to have close to 4,000 passing yards this season, it looks like. Oh my goodness. He also has 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So 24 touchdowns for him on offense. Derek Dudley, 23 touchdowns for him, for Akron. And Kevin Crosby rounds out the Best Quarterback Award. So we have, 2 players? Just Justin Hops and Michael Hines represent our 12 schools here on the Best Quarterback semifinalist list. The Doak Walker Award. Brandon Allen, no surprise, he's #1 right now. And he will most likely walk away with the Heisman this year as well. Nate Henderson, Colorado State, 1,700 yards and 21 touchdowns on offense. He's great for Colorado State. Sonny Six is #3. MJ Gator Jr. 4. And Zoomer Speed is #5. And I expect to see Smash Jackson on here as well, as he has over 1,000 yards. Andrew Adams, pretty good year. Look at that. 513 rushing yards, 427 receiving. Very versatile halfback. John Trott for Ohio. He's over 1,000 yards this season. And there's Smash Jackson at number 8. He also has a touchdown reception. So 12 touchdowns on offense for him this season, as he definitely saw a decrease in his carries this year. Brian Freeman, UNLV. He's got over 500 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, over 700 yards rushing. Raul Lozano, 835 yards, 13 touchdowns for the Cal Poly Mustangs. Brian Ham, over 1,000 total yards and 11 touchdowns. And Lawrence Tompkins, we saw him run all over the South Dakota State Jackrabbits defense to over 400 yards, over 500, I believe. And he's just had a great season altogether as well. That's the Doak Walker Award. Let's check out the, if I can remember the name of this award. I can't remember it. The Best Wide Receiver Award. We'll check it out. Fred Biletnikoff Award. There we go. Brain fart. Kingsley Massey for Boise State is number 1. He's got 14 touchdowns. Joey Lester at number 2 for Alcorn State. Greg Hopkins for Fresno State is on there, over 1,000 yards, 13 scores. And Mr. Highlight at number 4. I think that's a little disrespectful. He's got 1,700 all-purpose yards, 19 touchdowns total. And he's having a great year receiving the ball. 31 catches, 14 touchdowns, and almost 800 yards. He also has 107 yards rushing on the year with a touchdown. He had 5 touchdown rushes last year. Very versatile player, and he is used like Tyreek Hill. And he definitely gets a lot of touches each game. Ty Abdullah, 14 touchdowns, 1,100 yards for Hawaii. Andrew Butler, New Mexico State, having a good year, 14 scores. James Johnson for Southeastern, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 87 catches. That is crazy. Elliot Ortiz for Nevada, over 1,000 yards, 9 scores. Chuck Pitts, 10 touchdowns. What a name. And here's Reinhard Urmandowski, 28 catches for 806 yards. That is crazy numbers. 27 yards per catch for his career. Look at those numbers. 73 receptions, 2,033 yards, 26 scores. Absolutely ridiculous numbers from Reinhard Urmandowski. And his brother for the North Dakota State Bison is basically the complete opposite. We have yet to see a breakout game from him. John Carter for Penn, 12 touchdowns. Only 637 yards, though. And Joel Parquette for Tennessee State. We'll be seeing him soon, with the Jacksonville Dolphins taking them on. Best tight end, Jake Berry at the top. Can't remember. He was first team All Big 12 last season. And Trent Green. Look at these numbers. 10 touchdowns for Jake Berry. He's definitely Justin Hop's go-to target for the Keydets. Trent Green, 3 touchdowns. Jason Nelson for Eastern Michigan has 4. Brahms North, not a lot of catches this season, just 12, but he's got 5 touchdowns and over 350 yards. So if he had more catches, he'd probably be number 1 on this list. Clint Ingram for Boise State, 4 touchdowns. Michael Young, freshman tight end from Grambling State, the Tigers. He's having a great year. Almost 20 catches, 509 yards, 4 scores. Jay Balmer, freshman tight end for VMI. So VMI's got 2 tight ends on this list. And Justin Hobbs definitely loves to throw it to the big guys. 333 yards on 18 catches, 4 touchdowns for the freshman. He's been balling out on the opposite side of Jake Berry. Ronnie Davis for William & Mary. He's got 4 touchdowns. James Davis for Princeton. He's got 5. 4 touchdowns for Zach Henry for San Diego State. Lance Babineau, 4 touchdowns for Eastern Kentucky. And Anthony Fields, freshman tight end for Alabama A&M, rounds out the Best Tight End Award, which is the John Mackey Award, I believe. Taking a look at the Best Offensive Line. Look at this, folks. Most of these players are subscriber players. Will Jefferson is number 1 currently, 67 pancakes, 4 sacks allowed. And Mike Heath. So we got 2 Bears here right at the top of this list. Like Bobo, he is not a subscriber player, but he was a 5-star left tackle for the Dayton Flyers. He's having a great season. Jake Harlow, he has improved tremendously from last season. Let's take a look at those stats. He allowed 13 sacks last season. He's only allowed 2 this year for the Bison. Lance Johnson, another non-subscriber lineman. Dan Williamson, 47 pancakes, 1 sack allowed for Cal Poly. Look at those stats last season. His pancakes have definitely taken a dip quite a bit, but still only allowed 2 sacks so far in his career. Ray Royal for Air Force. Kevin Coates, or Cates, or Keats, I don't know how to pronounce that. I've heard that name pronounced several different ways. Al Booker, non-subscriber tackle. Sean Horton, another non-subscriber player for the Cal Poly Mustangs. And Kenneth Harrington, 43 pancakes, 3 sacks allowed. He's having a rough season. He's allowed 1 more sack this year than he did last season. And he was a freshman All-American, All-ACC, first team All-American last year. Absolute stud. And of course, Dan Williamson, he won this award last season. Best offensive lineman for 2005. He was just outstanding. You can't top that. 111 pancakes, 1 sack allowed. Insane. Let's check out the Best Center Award. I used to know the names for all these. Oh, that's the Remington. It has it right there. My goodness. Sebastian Hernandez. So, the Bears, look at this. 2 Bears at the top of this one, and a Bear at the top of that one. So, Northern Colorado representing with the big fatties up front. Then we have another subscriber player here, Great North. And a freshman center here for Southern Utah. 22 pancakes on the season, and 0 sacks allowed. So, pretty great offensive line there for the Thunderbirds. I'm just going to scroll in case we see another subscriber player, and we do not. But UC Davis and Savannah State both have a player on there as well for the Remington Award. The Lombardi, Joe Owens. He looks like he might run away with it. 16 sacks. Nobody's even close. Let's see who our number 2 sack leader is. Well, Joe Owens, he's a non-subscriber player, so. But the subscriber players, the leader for sacks is Kyle Rose for Savannah State. He's got 10. And then William Reed has 9. Caleb Chubb and Zane Williams both have 8. After that, there's a few that have 7. And I'm surprised, actually, that Kyle Rose is not on here at all. That is just crazy to me. Wow. He leads all of our players with sacks, and he doesn't even get a mention. And I mean, William Reed, he's got 9 sacks. No mention of him on here. A little bit disrespectful to some of our players. And Tank Taylor, defensive tackle, he has 6 sacks on the season. I know it's not a huge number, but, I mean, he also has, let's see, how many does he have? He has 6 fumbles recovered on the season and a forced fumble. I mean, this got to count for something, right? That's crazy. He's not even mentioned. Best linebacker, Logan Tyler at number 2. 70 tackles on the season. He's a tackling machine. Rob Orlandi at 4. Cy Summers, number 5. Did he win this last year? No, he did not. Can't remember if any of our guys won it. DB Slocum on there as well for Dayton. So Dayton has 2 linebackers on here. And a player that also doesn't get a mention here is Dirt Davis. He is the other linebacker for the Dayton Flyers. He's had a great season. He's got 5 forced fumbles on the year. And I believe he has 1 recovered. If I can find it. No, he does not have a fumble recovery. But still, crazy stats from him. 5 forced fumbles by a freshman linebacker. And he's got quite a bit of tackles as well. The Jim Thorpe Award, Best Defensive Back. Ralph William is number 1 right now. That is insane. I mean, he does lead all of our defensive backs with 5 interceptions, but still. And 5 forced fumbles. Bully Cooper on there. Another Northern Colorado Bear. Chris Major, he's on there. He's got 6 sacks this season. I believe he was our only player last season to go triple digits for tackles. I think Marcus Pedersen, strong safety for the Jacksonville Dolphins, was second with 99 tackles. I don't know if Major's going to get it this year. He might. There's still quite a few games left. Non-subscriber player here, Jamie Foster for the Flyers. Darius Peters, he's suspended 3 games, so he has no chance at winning this award. But he's still on the list. Dylan Tong is on here. 3 forced fumbles on the year and a pick 6. Jermaine Price, he's got 3 picks. He also has a safety on the season for the Flyers. And that is it for our players on that award. The Lou Groza Award. Robert Carter, 13 of 14 field goals, 61 of 61 for extra points. He is number 2. He's a non-subscriber player for Dayton. And Nick Leonard, I believe he won this award last season. He did. So he might go back-to-back here. He's only missed 1 field goal this season. And he only missed 1 last year as well. And 0 missed extra points. So he is pretty much automatic. And another non-subscriber kicker here, Alan Coleman, only 10 field goals on the season, but he hasn't missed at all. And I was hoping to see another one of our kickers on here, one of our freshman kickers, Johnny Legursky, or JUCO transfer, Quasi Sands. That would have been nice. Best punter. Doesn't show any of their stats, so let's just scroll down here. None of our guys are on here. Best returner, Oliver Vincent is actually in the lead for North Dakota State above Mr. Highlight. Let's go ahead and take a look at those stats. He does have quite a few returns. 1 kick return for a touchdown this season. 5 punt returns for scores for Oliver Vincent. And Mr. Highlight, of course, he's got 1 kick return for a touchdown and 3 punt returns for scores. He's got 9 total returns for touchdowns in his career. He's been amazing. Freshman corner, Brian Hagan for Southern Utah. He's on there. Amari Manuel, he has several touchdowns. Punt returns, I believe. 3 of them. No kick returns for touchdowns yet. Jamar Hicks, he's having a great season. He's got 10 total kick returns and punt returns for scores in his career. So he's got 1 more than Mr. Highlight. So he's got the lead on that. Darius Mitchell, he's having a great season, rushing 743 yards, 6 touchdowns. And he's also fantastic on returns. 6 punt returns for scores in his career. 3 this season. Wyatt Geddes, freshman, making the list. That is actually surprising. It's really cool to see the freshmen get on here. And let's take a look at his stats overall. 330 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns on the season, and 25 catches and a touchdown. He hasn't had a catch since like week 4. But still, he's got that touchdown. He's got a kick return for a score. It was a 96-yarder. And a 63-yard punt return for a score as well. So really cool to see him on here. So congrats to Wyatt Geddes. I don't think he's going to win it. But, you know, unless he's got like crazy stats in the last little half of the season here. Bryson Shields is on here. He's got a kick return for a score, 100-yarder. And a 93-yard punt return for a score as well for the Cadets. And that is it for that. The Best Coach Award, Morgan State, is at the top right now. See, they are 6-3 in the ACC Coastal. And Noah Regier is on here for Southern Utah. First time we've seen him. 7-0 on the season. And what a great way to start off his career. William and Mary. John Gruden on here for the Dayton Flyers. 8-1 on the year. And Scott Goldberg won this award last season for the Bryant Bulldogs. But that's it for the awards list, guys. I know that took quite a bit of time, but we're not going to check that out every week. Probably check it out like the last week of the season, just to see, or when they go to like the top 3 or whatever, or the top 5, we'll go and check it out. And we'll just check out the players of the week quick. Sanchez is honored after #1 Tennessee State's near loss to Southern. I'm loving seeing these HBCUs down here. Some of my favorite schools to watch. I always grew up watching Grambling State. You know, they had this huge quarterback at one time. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. But he was like 300 plus pounds. Just tossing the tater out there, throwing deep touchdown passes. It was so fun watching the Tigers back in the early 2000s and the mid 2000s. But here's the players of the week. I'm not going to read all these stats. I'm just going to scroll. Ruben Blueberry and Brandon Allen, they both get National Players of the Week with fantastic performances. Blueberry, of course, had that fumble return for a touchdown. That was huge. Dorian Wura is on there, and he has been put into the starting quarterback spot for the Flyers. Jared Martin just having a really rough season so far with accuracy issues. A lot of underthrows and a lot of overthrows. But hopefully he can fix that and get back into the starting role moving forward. But right now it's the Dorian Wura show for the Dayton Flyers. Oliver Vincent makes the list here on the Big 12. Big East, which is the Ivy League. Crazy stats right there from Brian Cook, freshman quarterback. Cornell looks like they have a pretty good quarterback for the future. Over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. My goodness. Conference USA, senior halfback, 239 yards. Curtis Rhodes, freshman defensive tackle with 9 tackles, 6 for a loss, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. Oh my goodness. James Madison 4-4 on the season. Navy has a couple players here. 8 carries, 20 yards, and a touchdown. That is really your player of the week on offense. Okay. The MAC, a couple Ball State players here for the number 4 Cardinals. I'm looking for some insane stats, and then I'll mention it. Raul Lozano, the 30, had 3 touchdowns in that win over Northern Colorado for the Cal Poly Mustangs. And Lance Sanchez, there's his stats. He was on the cover. 11 tackles, 4 for loss, 2 sacks, forced fumble, and a fumble recovery in that win over Southern. The Sun Belt, 11 catches, 187 yards, 3 touchdowns for Reggie Chapman for the Northwestern, I can't remember their name for some reason. Northwestern State, whatever. On to the WAC, 534 yards, 7 touchdowns for Trey McCoy in that win over New Mexico State. Oh my goodness, try competing with that. Goodness gracious. All right, let's check out this conference standings. Keydets suffer a collapse against Big 12 foe Chattanooga. What? No, they did not. I don't understand that. All right, the ACC, William & Mary at the top right now. And it looks like they are going to win the Atlantic, so we're not going to see Bryant in the ACC championship game. So a little bit of a disappointment there for the Bulldogs after winning the national championship last season and cruising to the ACC title. So very disappointing for them, but they might still get a big-time bowl game. Savannah State, they cannot afford any conference losses going forward. The next game is at Morgan State. So that is for the ACC Coastal, folks. They have to win that game. And Morgan State has had a pretty good year. Their defense is stout. 174 points allowed, just like Savannah State. Their offense could use some work. Only 225 points, but still, that's a pretty good point differential for them. Out of the Big Ten, Dayton, they are now back at the top. They did lose to Montana earlier in the season. Montana, of course, has suffered a little bit of a collapse. They were undefeated at the time, I believe. And Montana has lost 3 games now. They just lost to Eastern Illinois, and they are dropped out of the top 25. So Eastern Illinois, 5-4 on the season, beating Montana. And Dayton, their next game is against Northern Iowa. And Northern Iowa, if I can find them. Oh, there they are. They're 4-3 on the season. So 4-1 in conference too. So, if Dayton slips up here against Northern Iowa, I mean, this conference is wide open again. On to the Big 12, VMI at the top. Southeastern, they just lost to Sam Houston State in Big 12 play, 34-31. That was their first loss of the season, and they drop out of the rankings But they are in the same exact division as VMI, so that could get really interesting. South Dakota State still at the top of the Big 12 North, even with their huge loss to SEMO. But this is definitely a race between VMI and Southeastern here. VMI cannot afford a loss. They have to face Southeastern next. So, big time game here in Week 11. The Ivy League, the Big East, Penn is at the top, 5-0. Brown having a good year, and Princeton as well. I don't really care about too much of these conferences because they don't have any of our schools in them. But let me know, is this Weber State or Weber State? Let me know in the comments, folks. Because I don't want to say that wrong if, next time we see them. UTEP, number 8 in the country, 7-1 on the year, having a great season. Northeastern, 6-2 on the year. I think, if I remember correctly, they only won one game last season, I believe. But they must have got some really good recruits because they are balling out this year at 6-2. The MAC, that's wide open still. Akron at the top, 7-0. The next game is versus Ball State. So winner of that most likely will go on to win the MAC. Mountain West has an FCS school at the top, Eastern Kentucky Colonels. They're 5-1 in conference, 6-2 on the season. And they're balling out. They did just lose to UNLV, though. Tough loss, 38-14. So UNLV just one game behind them now in conference play. The Pac-10, Southern Utah at the top, undefeated, 5-0 in conference, 7-0 on the season. Cal Poly, 7-1 on the year. Their only loss to New Mexico State. They're 5-0 in conference, so that could get really interesting. Cal Poly has to take on the Hornets of Sacramento State next, and Southern Utah has a full broadcast game, a live stream, as they have to travel to Greeley, Colorado to take on the Northern Colorado Bears. They did just shut out San Diego, though, in a live stream, so they've only allowed 88 points this season. They are just balling out, both sides of the ball. Northern Colorado, number 3 in the Pac-10. UC Davis is at number 4, and all the way down here, almost at the exact bottom, is San Diego. Now, they do not have any live stream games left, so I will be using them for their last 4 games, and they got a tough one at Portland State next. So I got to win out with them, folks, to get a bowl game. It's been a rough season for them. The SEC, Jacksonville all the way down at number 5. They did just lose to Alcorn State, who's having a great season. And, they're also in the same division as Jacksonville, so that puts Alcorn State at the top. Tennessee State rolling through their schedule. They just beat Southern by 3. Southern only 2-5 on the season, so a rough game there for Tennessee State. And Jacksonville is actually number 3 in the SEC West now. They cannot afford any more losses, so that Tennessee State game, could determine the rest of their season, really. So they want to have a shot at the SEC title. They won it last season against the Tigers in a rematch. So they gotta step it up. The Sun Belt, FIU at the top. Georgia Southern 6-1 on the year. They're number 2 right now, 3-1 in conference. And the WAC is led by Boise State. And that is it, folks. Let's see. There are 4 undefeated schools left, 2 FCS schools, and Boise State and Akron. So it's going to get real interesting right now. As you can see, Southern Utah 15th in the nation, and Boise State 12th, Akron 14th. They're getting a little bit disrespectful here with some of these schools, especially with Boise State being 8-0. I know they're in a small conference, but still, they're just rolling through people. They just beat the number 1 team in the country as well. And Tennessee State, of course, they're in the SEC. They're going to get some bias, just a little bit. Oh, I think I know what they're talking about here with the setback. Maybe it's the injury to Hops. I don't know. But that's the only thing that would make sense right there. Well, that is it for this video, guys. I could show you the recruits, I guess. I did post the recruits that have been actually recruited, those are in the Discord community. But Bryant, they've got a 4-star receiver so far. Obviously, this guy's name is probably not going to be Nick White. These are all players that are going to be customized in the offseason as subscriber players. And there's a 3-star for the Cal Poly Mustangs, 3-star receiver. And Dayton, they got a 4-star receiver as well, Joey Hicks. This middle linebacker, 3-star for Dayton. So Dayton, they have no issues with the linebacking core, that is for sure. And this is the little list that we have left for Jacksonville. I mean, these players, all of these players, they're just like, nah, I don't want to go there. And we had 7 players on here before that loss to Elkhorn State, and they all dropped out, and it was these 3 right here. So, missed out on a middle linebacker, an outside linebacker, and a corner. And the linebackers, that would have been huge for Jacksonville, and the corner as well, because they only have 1 subscriber corner on the Dolphins defense and only 1 subscriber linebacker. But they still got a shot here at this middle linebacker. And I don't think we're going to get this defensive tackle. Jacksonville really needs the halfbacks, so I put all these points into these halfbacks right now. And this is a race between Southern Utah and Jacksonville. And I believe I actually took him off of Southern Utah's list, so JU will have a pretty good shot here. Southern Utah already got a halfback, so we'll see him in a moment. But these are 2 5-star halfbacks. It would be crazy if Jacksonville could at least get one of them, but they're number 2 for both of them and for this middle linebacker. So rough recruiting in season so far for the Dolphins, and pretty much rough overall for all 12 schools. North Dakota State, do they have anybody yet? No, they do not. But they're looking to get a quarterback here. No 5-star players, but definitely players in positions that they really need. Northern Colorado, as you can see, all defense, baby. They need it badly. They did get a 3-star receiver, too, as well. And this guy runs a 4.35 40. They desperately need speed on the receiving end for the Bears because they have none. Howard Bresnagale is their number 1 option at receiver, and he's a little rough. But that's it for the Bears. South Dakota State. Excuse me. Burping up some coffee. You gotta love it. I don't think they have anybody either. No, they do not. But they still got plenty of players left on their board. All 4-star players, I believe, except for this player right here, Phillip Wilson. And their corner, which I took all the points off, there's no chance. No chance at getting him. But, again, a lot of defense here for the Jackrabbits. They desperately need it. San Diego, they got 4 players left on theirs. They haven't got anybody yet. And they actually have lost, I think they just lost these 3 players after their previous loss. But I'm trying real hard here. Trying to get them another receiver. Trying to get them a tight end. They need a tight end. And they need some defensive help as well. They really needed the help in the secondary. But as you can see, the secondary just didn't want it. They did not want to go there. Savannah State obviously have had 0 trouble recruiting players. And I believe they're number 1 on all these lists here. And they are. And they also got a 4-star corner. And they have the heir apparent to Jeremy Carroll, quarterback, 4-star out of Tarpon Springs, Florida. He's a dual threat. This guy's going to be a monster. So if you want to be a quarterback for the Tigers and you're not in the Discord, get in there because that's the only way you're going to get a player. I'm not doing a video like the previous 2 off seasons. I'm just going to add players that are in our community and want to be a part of it. Southern Utah, that is the halfback that I took off of here for them. I know a 5-star halfback would be huge for them, but they already have one right here, Irvin Williams. They got him to commit, and it really wasn't difficult to get him either. So they have him. They have Cam Sanders. They've got Brandon Lee at fullback. Southern Utah is pretty much set in the backfield. They also got 4-star defensive end from Arizona. As I go ahead and get my music back. All credit for the music goes to Andy Hamilton. Shout out to Andy. But they have a 4-star defensive end and a 5-star halfback. So, and look at the speed for this defensive end. 4.6, 40. My goodness. Southern Utah is looking pretty good here for the recruits. UC Davis got them a 4-star receiver and a 4-star guard, which they desperately need offensive line, and another receiver that has some good speed. So he runs a 4.4 40. Field awareness is A+, hands are A+. So we might not see a lot of drop passes from this player if that is who you want to customize. And working on getting a tight end here. Some defensive line depth as well. And some more offensive line. And a strong safety for the Aggies would be huge as well. Get some depth there in the secondary. And VMI, only 3 players left on their board. 5-star guard, Bernard Lawrence. 4-star receiver and halfback. We have got 2 players for them so far. They're both 3-star. And one's a guard and a strong safety. And that is it for the in-season recruiting, folks. So if you don't have a player, you want one, you want to see your name on one of those players that you want to customize that I just showed you, go ahead, join our Discord community, and I will hook you up in the off-season with a player for you to customize. But that is going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This is a bit of a long one, but we had the award finalists, or semifinalists, and you know, we also checked out the in-season recruiting, so we did a bit more here today than we usually do on the taking a look at the nation. But it's been fun, and I will see you guys soon with week number 11. We have 11 games in week 11, 1 full broadcast game, so all 12 of our schools are playing. So it should be really fun and a lot of work. For the rest of the season, the regular season, we have 42 total games. So after this week, we'll be down to 31 games and just 4 weeks left after this week 11 slate of games. And only 3 live broadcast games left after this week as well. 2 in week 12 and 1 for week 13. Week 11 and week 12, all 12 schools play. So plenty of games to watch in week 11 and 12, folks. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Slap that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Join the Discord community if you haven't. And I'll see you guys in there. Till then, take it easy.